It would have also been interesting to have created alternate timelines where the ponies had certain benefits that they would have had to have sacrificed in order to restore the timeline to the way it was meant to go. What if Applejack had to give up her parents' existence in order to return to the proper world wherein her parents didn't exist? Or what if Rarity had gotten married and started a family? Or if Fluttershy had saved some kind of rare, exotic, endangered species from going extinct? Maybe Pinkie Pie got to cure cancer. Or maybe Rainbow Dash had achieved her dream of being a Wonderbolt and as such had saved certain lives from various perils, as well as perhaps bonding deep lasting friendships with Dilda and Lightning Dust. It would have been interesting if the 5 friends had each achieved some kind of greatness that they would have had to have sacrificed in order to have restored the timeline. It would have also been interesting if each timeline had featured only one of Twilight's friends, and she would have had to have grabbed said friend from that timeline and taken her with her on further time-traveling adventures. Then, after visiting 5 timelines, she would have had all 5 of her friends with her, but they would have all had different experiences and different talents. Then she would have tried to work things out so that those 5 friends would have gotten along enough to rekindle the elements of harmony and pull off some kind of victory. It would have also been interesting if Starlight Glimmer's actions had also foreshadowed the potential alternate timelines that they had all created. Then there would have been more of a cause and effect issue, as opposed to a repeat the halting of the rain boom followed by a completely random alternate reality that, you could have played these in any order. Making Fluttershy friends with the bullies had had the direct effect of her still being friends with the bullies in the future, and that had had another direct effect of Chrysalis taking over Canterlot. Then that could have helped explain why Fluttershy was the way she was when she was part of Zatora's tribe, but we didn't see that either. All of these complaints aside, I did enjoy seeing the ponies in military uniforms fighting in a war and doing all kinds of battle and having all kinds of effects from the battle, and I enjoyed the fact that their talents still helped with the war effort and that those talents actually weren't changed after all. And I did enjoy seeing the ponies walking around with the tribal markings and the tribal leaf clothing, holding the spears and hiding in the forest Robin Hood style as they tried to battle against the changelings all Ewok style. And I liked seeing the darker, more shadow-toned versions of the ponies as they served Nightmare Moon. And I enjoyed the brief bit of fanfiction fuel that we got from the Discord timeline, the Flim Flam Brother timeline, and the T-Rex timeline. We got just enough taste of those to get a vague headcanon-y idea on where the series could have been going. As far as Starlight Glimmer's backstory, honestly, that could have been handled very easily with the simple idea of picking up a pen and paper and writing a letter and sending it to your friend's new address. The fact that that wasn't even an attempt and that Starlight Glimmer didn't have it occur to her that she could be making friends with ponies who already had Cutie marks, and therefore they wouldn't leave because they already found their place. Those are two things that makes me go like, oh, gee, Starlight, you didn't even try. What a lame excuse to turn evil. It was fun in the other timelines to see Fluttershy being assertive and Zatora having all of that awesome magic and wisdom that made her realize that she was in the presence of time travelers. It was interesting to see Rarity fixing up the tapestries and to get the idea that she really wasn't suffering from living under the rule of Nightmare Moon. And even Rainbow Dash seemed to be serving Nightmare Moon willingly, as opposed to living in the polluted and depressing world of war that Applejack was under when she was in the somber world, or living in fear like Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy were when they were in the changeling world. And it was interesting to see all of the different ways that Starlight Glimmer was able to continue to foil the events that led up to the Rainboom, including the fact that she used passive techniques to talk the Colts out of being bullies, and that Twilight couldn't morally object to the fact that they would no longer bully Fluttershy, even if that meant changing the timeline. Then there was also some of Starlight's other traits, like encasing Twilight in crystal, blocking Twilight's attacks, and using Twilight's aggressive fighting styles to distract Rainbow Dash from wanting to race, becoming encased in crystal herself, but having the skill to break out of the crystal, dodging Twilight's spell and allowing Rainbow Dash to be encased in crystal, helping Fluttershy to go through the obstacle course by levitating her with her magic. All of the little tricks that Starlight had when she was preventing the Rainboom from happening were all very clever and very well done. It was also interesting to see when Twilight was out of energy because she had just fought Starlight Glimmer, that she had to then outsmart Nightmare Moon rather than fight her head on. And seeing Celestia imprisoned in the moon was a nice twist as well, especially since the moon had a slight hue of Celestia's main colors upon the craters. I also agree with one of the other reviewers out there who said that Starburst could have been more interesting if had he been Sunset Shimmer. I think it definitely would have been better to have introduced an old pony in that role as opposed to introducing a new one. I'm also disappointed that they didn't take Sunburst and bring him back as an adult to help Twilight confront Starlight Glimmer. Having Starlight Glimmer defeated by her old friend that she missed so desperately could have been an interesting, heart-touching moment. A little conversation between Starlight and Sunburst going on about what they used to mean to each other could have been an interesting way to have brought about her defeat and reform. All Twilight would have had to have done was go back in time, find that character when he was an adult, and grab him and take him through time with her so that he could talk to Starlight. Spider-Man did a similar thing in a time-traveling episode where he had Uncle Ben talk to an evil incarnation of Spider-Man from an alternate world. And that was enough to break Spider-Man out of being evil. The song at the end of the season was nice, but nothing that I'm going to put on my top 10 chart. Although I did love getting to see all of the little sequences that happened during the song, especially the reappearance of the Equal Pony Village and the appearance of all of the background ponies. And now that Twilight is going to be taking Starlight Glimmer on as a student, I wonder if she'll take on other students as well. And will Starlight Glimmer be a new main character, or will she be a new supporting cast character? And if she is a new character, will she be in the season 6 intro? How central will she be to the upcoming stories, and how well will the fans take to her reform? Will she be the next Sunset Shimmer, or will the fans not really like her? And going forward, will Starlight Glimmer get to go into the human world during the next Equestria Girls movie? As we now have 2 Twilights, maybe Twilight can't go to the human world anymore, and she'll have to send somebody who doesn't have a human equivalent in the other world already. And for that matter, where is the human equivalent of Starlight Glimmer and the human equivalent of Sunset Shimmer? Or maybe the next Equestria Girls will be about humans coming to the pony world. But it looks like it's going to be Starlight Glimmer who's going to carry the episodes on into their new direction. This could be either a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes when a series that's been running for a while adds a new cast member, it can do some interesting things with that character, as is the case with 7 of 9 on Voyager and Worf on Deep Space Nine. Other times we can end up with something like Slimer in the real Ghostbusters, or that little nephew that Snarf had on Thundercats, just adding on extra characters for the sake of being annoying or pointless. It could have also been interesting to see what life would have been like for Twilight and Spike if had Twilight never become Celestia's student, or if Twilight had to live her life without Spike in it. What would it be like if Twilight was still friends with Moondancer and Twinkle-Shine and Lemon Hearts and Minuet, and had never left Canterlot? What would it be like if Starlight Glimmer as an adult had gone back in time and taken the young Twilight Sparkle as her student and trained Twilight to value the ideals of equality, and had twisted Twilight into a somewhat evil version of what Twilight would be? That could have been another interesting way to have taken the plot. Other ideas that would have been interesting would have been to have seen what would happen if all of the villains existed at the same time in the same timeline and had to fight each other. Or if one of the villains had gone back in time with Twilight and had tried to battle Starlight and then defeated her and took over the time-traveling spin, and then Starlight had to travel through time to stop the villain. Also would have been interesting if a future Starlight had traveled back in time to prevent her past self from altering the timeline, because the future Starlight had realized all of her mistakes and was working against herself to try and change her own past. That would have also been a fun little thing to have had them do.